What can be said about the definition of the word enigma? Only that it is something difficult to describe, difficult to explain, and it has complicated significance, especially as we move to certain topics. In this episode of the Enigma Sessions, I will be covering the special on Hispanos in the military. Continuing with this topic, I am joined today by another fellow service member and another person that I grew up with. We will be discussing his early life as he moved from the northern part of Mexico near the US-Mexico border to Nevada, as well as the awkward stages of middle school, high school, and his decision to join the military. This is Staff Sergeant Antonio Gomez. So, continuing with the theme on this episode of the ESL Sessions, the Enigma episodes, I have another fellow service member, a little bit more of an unconventional side, but has had the experience of being able to be a part of the Air Force side as an Air National Guardsman. But so just to start it off, I'll let him introduce himself, and then we'll get started with it. So go ahead, dude. Same thing. We're going to keep it anonymous off the record. So he's going to use a pseudonym to be able to just kind of continue with the interview a little bit more secure.
Hi there, Jonathan. I'm Antonio Gomez. As you mentioned, I am an active duty member of the Air National Guard, Air Force, whichever you like.
Yeah, dude. So
it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks, man, dude. And then I know we'd been talking about this for a good bit, like the last time. And then, like I mentioned, it's like trying to get your perspective on the service as one, being a member of our community of the Fernley, Nevada, and then being an Hispano, but also being a Mexican in service on this segment, this special segment that I'm doing for the podcast for service members, for Mexican service members, Hispano service members in the military. And you covering the Air Force, dude, and especially being, like I said, that unconventional side of being the Air National Guardsman actually brings another whole different thing to what I'm trying to like put out and inform in this portion of the podcast. But let's start off early. Let's start off from the beginning. So, dude, we've known each other for a good while now, but how about we start off from the beginning, from where you were born to your early years, and then where you currently are
now? So I was born in Mexicali, Baja California, Mexico, in 94. I came to the States in 99. So, I was taught, essentially. After spending some time over in Palomino Valley, which is kind of like this weird ranch area of north of Sparks, with my uncle, we ended up actually relocating out here to Fernley NV, and it's where I grew up. It's where I did all my schooling, and beyond that, yeah, it's where we met in high school.
Right, dude? So here, let's bring it back a bit. So out of Mexicali, straight to Nevada in 99. Now, you can choose to decide if you want to keep it off the record or not, but did you come here legally or illegally?
So it's a gray area. We are a visa overstay. Mm-hmm. So we came here legally, however, we overstayed our visas. My dad was actually already a resident at that point in time. He got his residency, I think it was in the 80s. So, it facilitated doing that. But, one thing led to another, and, my folks decided it was in our best interest to come stateside. And, it's just one of those things where, over time, we were able to get legit, And, through obviously a lot of hard work and a lot of money.
Yeah.
And not to mention a lot of stress, because as I'm sure you're aware, the actual system for, actually immigrating through the proper channels is a complete mess. And, in my opinion, at least. But, despite it all, we were all able to become citizens in the end.
Okay, dude. Yeah, dude. No, like I've had my fair share of experiences too. So, and it's actually kind of funny because really thinking about it, we never touched on that ever. Like in our past, we just kind of accepted that whole thing as like, hey, if you were a member of our community, there was one of two things: you were either born stateside and just grew up really Mexican, really Hispano within our community right there in Fernley, or you were illegal. Or you at least came in with a visa, dude. And that's the weird thing, dude. We never discussed that. We never really did discuss that about it. And that's crazy, dude. I always thought you came here legally. Well, I mean, technically you did, but
Technically, yeah. It's kind of one of those things. It's like you look at somebody and you kind of. I think it's easy to kind of take for granted. That maybe like, you just take them for face value when in reality, their life is just as complex and nuanced as yours is,
Yeah. No.
Especially since like people kind of look at me and I can say this, like I don't really speak with an accent. I've been told I don't really speak with an accent. So like it takes people aback when I start speaking Spanish. And they're like, "Oh, like that's actually your first language?" Like, yeah, actually, like I came to the States not knowing a word of English. Matter of fact, I started kindergarten not knowing a word of English. So I remember my aunt actually having to raise my hand for me because I was so confused as to what was going on.
Oh man, dude. Yeah. Well, here, run me through a little bit of that, dude. So just like most of us, we don't know anything about the language here. All we know is just the social cues, the body languages, and then whatever we're being told. But how was that experience like? Being one, literally coming into the country, not knowing a bit of anything, and having to deal with that.
I can't really comment as far as like, looking from like the outside in since I was so young. However, all I can really recount is how quickly I picked up the language. I mean, I wish I could learn things like other things that quickly. It was like within the second or third week, I was speaking English at a pretty proficient level, enough to actually, hold a conversation with, fellow kindergartners.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one of those things as a kid, it's like, you just kind of pick it up.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's really true because that's a little bit more of the whole early developmental thing. That's the behavioral psychology with that is like the early developmental of how as a young child, as within those early formative years, right, of like when you start getting to know or start to recognize certain things, you're basically absorbing everything. So yeah, dude, no, and I can attest to that too because like I definitely had that same situation when I came to the States in '99 as well. And I would say that within like a month, 2 months, definitely started to be able to understand and recognize things. But I've got like 3 or 4 couple experiences that just kind of made me realize that big difference between it's like, well, damn, I'm already speaking a second language. I'm already speaking a foreign language that I didn't know, much less even recognized.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just weird because it's like, like you come to as a kid, especially, you almost take for granted like your mother tongue.
Mm-hmm.
As like that's how everyone communicates, but then you realize like no, like even within like the same country, people will speak multiple languages.
Yeah.
I mean, I even look at Spain itself. I mean, how many languages and dialects do they have
No, yeah, it's
between, Catalan, Valenciano, you name it.
yeah, no, for sure, dude. All right, so let's keep it moving a little bit. So you get to the States in '99, and weirdly enough, all of us almost get to the States in '99, which is kind of weird. Yeah, dude, that's actually a weird pattern that I've actually been noticing about almost everybody that I've interviewed. Like '99 was like that hit point. It's like, no, we gotta get to the States. We gotta become American before Y2K hits, dude. Oh man, it just seems weird. It just seems weird now.
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to ask my folks what their reasoning was for that particular year, but that seems to be the year of our Lord, 99.
Right, dude. 1999, man. You know what? Just we're gonna start getting T-shirts about that, man. En el 99. All right, man. Okay, dude. All right. So besides that, let's keep it moving. So you get to the States in '99. You're in Nevada, and you move to Fernley, like what, middle school, high schoolish?
No, it was actually kindergarten. Yeah. So I started kindergarten in 2000. So within the year of moving to the States, I was in Fernley.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, dude. So then you'd been in,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so but yeah, we didn't know each other then, dude. We literally met until high school, dude. And it's funny though too how close knit the community was, because my mom knew your parents for the longest time, dude, and I had no idea you existed. Like legitimately, dude.
Las Posadas.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what I was gonna say, dude. That's like that's like the one thing that I always like kind of connected as like the traditions and stuff with like the heritage. So all right, let's keep it moving, dude, with that. So
Las Fiestas.
yeah, all of that, dude. So how were your years, like your middle school
That's
years,
funny.
dude? How were your middle school years?
Do I really have to talk about it?
Yeah, you don't have to talk about
it
it,
was
dude.
it was my well, in a nutshell, it was my awkward phase. I mean, and that's coming from a kid who kind of grew up awkward and weird, and I'm sure we'll get into that when we reach high school.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
Because for because even our Spanish class, our members, they thought
No
I
doubt,
was kind
dude.
of left field. But anyway, even for someone who was let's just say eccentric, it was my awkward phase, middle school, and that's kind of saying something.
All right. Well,
I guess to build on that though,
yeah.
I guess that was kind of, well, late elementary school, early middle school was kind of when I was like realizing that, like, this was like I kind of that's kind of like the turning point where I was more American than I was Mexican, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get you, dude.
As far as like culturally speaking goes. Not that obviously like I would ever turn my back on my Mexican heritage. I'm proud to be what I am. But it's kind of looking back on it, that's kind of when that point of divergence happened where I was like, I think I'm like more American than I am Mexican.
Yeah, dude. No, and honestly, I can tell you with that too is because it's a little bit of what do you call it? It's a little bit of like a bit of an identity crisis, right? If you can like relate with that term, because it's weird.
Right. It's just by virtue of your environment.
Yeah, it really is, dude. So you're suffering, just like I said, like myself and probably most of us growing up in those early formative years, like with that weird identity crisis of whether you're American, you're not American, you're Mexican, you're not, and you're kind of rebelling towards one, yourself, and then your natural heritage, and then two, you're accepting your surroundings a little bit more. At what point do you think that changed a little bit after the fact that you came to this realization?
So when I could you elaborate that question?
So you're like you're saying you're coming to the terms, you're coming to the realization that you're a little bit more American at this point than you are Mexican, like you're saying, based on your cultural surroundings. At what point did that kind of that whole thing kind of shift to where it's just like, maybe I'm accepting my American side just a little bit more, but I'm not really turning my back on my Mexican heritage. Let me start delving a little bit more into what the rest of my what my ancestors, my family, like the normal general traditions of being a Mexican is, and if I can make it intertwine and work with this new acceptance of culture that I'm taking in, if you can understand it like that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So I would say come, like early high school, when I guess I started going into, I guess, quote unquote, early adulthood, young adulthood. Um, I realized that, it's one of those things like, uh, especially having, both my folks, being like pretty invested in my life, still, and even to this day, like I'm very close with my folks. When, we would be opening gifts on, midnight Christmas, Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is Christmas to us, like,
Yeah.
that's, culturally speaking, like, Christmas Day itself is kind of like irrelevant, but Christmas Eve is like when all the parties go down, when all the exchanging, all the gifts, all the eating, all the, I kind of realized like, hey, it's cool that like I've adopted these new customs, these new practices, but at the same time, like, we're able to kind of keep me grounded culturally.
Yeah. No, for sure.
You know, even though they themselves are a little, let's just say, unorthodox with their practices. My dad's from El Sur, he's from Guadalajara, and my mom is from Mexicali. So, especially with that, we kind of have, even within Mexican culture itself, we have a mix of, southern, obviously the interior of Mexico, the culture is pretty different than it is in the north. Being from the north, like, I kind of took this for granted. And I hope I'm not getting too off track here, but like,
no, dude, you whatever you gotta say, dude.
Northern culture is already kind of Americanized, like la cultura norteña. Like you talk about like words, like different words, like lonche, it means lunch in the north. Troca means truck. Those are words that otherwise aren't used in Mexican Spanish, elsewhere in the country besides the north, just because of languages and two cultures that you have as a product of being a border town, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess with that being said, it made me realize as well that like just being from Mexicali, I already kind of had a small grasp of American culture just by virtue of our proximity to the States.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like I even remember celebrating Thanksgiving as a kid in Mexicali, because that's a thing you do in the north for some reason, but
yeah.
We do it because it's just, it's something we've adopted in the north, in el norte, from American culture.
Yeah, dude, and it's a little bit funny that you bring it up like that too, is because we kind of don't have like that realization of how just a little bit Americanized the northern states of Mexico really are like that. Because even I can say that like the small time I spent in Ciudad Juarez when I was still dealing with my immigration issue, like getting that fixed, dude, like a little bit of what I encountered there was that just that whole proximity between what's the southern state of California and the northern state of Mexico, and then the southern state of the southern portion of Texas, and the northern part of Chihuahua, like really do take and feed off each other a lot. And then a lot of just like that, like in the physical, no, not even in the physical sense, in an actual like cultural sense, that border kind of gets erased because of how easily transferable the traditions, the regular day-to-day goings are between that small portion of land.
Right. And I mean, that's, I think one thing that often gets overlooked, just by society as a whole is, you know, borders are a human construct. People have migrated since the dawn of man. And, it's one of those things like, ideas are bulletproof. You can't, it's one of those things that, given enough time and enough exposure, like other people are going to grow to adopt or accept and, etc. It's like, it's no different than, like in Mexicali, again, to use it as an example, it's like, I think it was at one point in the early 20th century, it was actually 90% Chinese.
Yeah.
It was a majority Chinese immigrant town. And there's still a lot of remnants of that Chinese culture in Mexicali. So, to add more nuance as far as like cultural, mishmashing goes, you also have like a big Asian influence. And you could just, you could dissect it further and further, but it's just so fascinating to me that like not even oceans, not even border fences, nothing can contain. It's a fact of human nature that people are going to move and people are going to share their beliefs and cultures with other groups of people.
Yeah, dude. No, for sure. Definitely. I definitely saw that while I was actually stationed down there in what do you call it? In El Centro, in the Calexico area in Mexicali, man. So yeah, for sure, dude. But dang, it's
shout out.
Yeah, shout out to that area. It was actually pretty nice, dude. Honestly, if I'd go back, I would definitely go back, dude. No doubt. I had a good time over there. It was really relaxed. But here, all right, let's keep it moving a little bit forward then. So the general dealings, the day-to-day interactions with your family kind of reestablish that cultural sense, but didn't extinguish your curiosity, didn't let you be yourself hindered from whatever surroundings and whatever was influencing you on the outside. What were some of the things that from this point in this realization, like we talked about, did give you, influenced you a bit? Because I know I talked about this with Cassie about the quintessential emo phase and how we essentially all fall into one. But I remember you, dude, very specifically, but I want you to say it. These were very specific types of like interest in music and culture and stuff like that. So what were things like that during this entire time frame you focused on?
I remember you mentioning it in one of your earlier podcasts, but as a kid, I really latched on to rock music. It was one of those things, and they're very, they always let us kind of express ourselves in the way we wanted to, as long as it wasn't, in bad taste.
Yeah.
Obviously. So like, my dad was like, he's like, oh, he likes rock music. I like rock music too, and he actually started showing me like, because he had tons of CDs at the time, and starts with your Led Zeppelins and your Black Sabbaths and your AC/DCs, and then it goes into your Metallicas and your Megadeths and your Slayers, and then before you know it, like you're listening to like Simple Plan or like Fall Out Boy and like emo music.
Yeah, well,
it's just kind of one of those things that you just kind of fall into. I think it's just like natural progression almost. You just kind of fall into this type of music.
Yeah, it does. It does.
But with that being yeah. But with that being said, like it's funny because like I came back to it. The first album I ever bought was From Under the Cork Tree by Fall Out Boy, and then it was funny because like I actually started with emo music. I went into like rock music, and then I came back to emo music, and then I kind of sat in that phase like for a long time, like into adulthood. And like especially like in high school and stuff, I was in a band, like we played hardcore music.
Yeah, dude, I remember that.
And, it was, yeah, we were total trash, but hey, like it was a fun way of expressing ourselves. And, it was cool to see that, like, like, because at times it felt kind of weird, like, because it's obviously like rock as a genre is like it's very white, right?
Yeah.
Um, I saw other bands like Code Red, for example. Their drummer Brian Vega is Mexican,
No shit,
and
dude.
like I thought that was cool because, like, you kind of it's the classic thing that, like, as a kid you kind of want to see like what you could aspire towards, right? Like, like kind of like how maybe like young black people like look up to like Black Panther as a superhero, right?
Yeah, dude.
Things like you kind of want to see like other people of your cultural background, maybe doing something that like is maybe not necessarily like accepted within the confines of your Hispanic culture. But it's one of those things that I thought was really neat and refreshing. And you know um the emo phase lasted for a while. I mean, as well as the hipster phase and so on and so forth.
No, dude, you're good, dude. No, but you bring up a really good point where I actually wanted to touch on that is that it's weird how we really do gravitate to things in that way when we see somebody at least similar, or we find, like you said, we find out somebody that's very similar that is like a part of that world, that cultural, that whole cultural effect of, it was just a drummer, but you found out he was a Mexican drummer. It was like, man, well, how many more people of our culture, or just even that have similarities to us, are in that area? And it's freaking awesome, dude. It's freaking awesome. So with that, let's pushing it just a little bit more, staying in the realm. So just like us, just like everybody else, we all go through our personal emo phase, and then we latch on to certain things about that. Now, I clearly remember, if I'm not wrong, dude, you never, as far as I can remember, you did not actually show interest into the military, or am I wrong, during your early high school years?
Early high school, not particularly, because I was, kid, and that's the kind of stuff that didn't jive with that culture. It's like, oh, I'm going to go be a robot in the military, and it's just one of those things. Like, I guess, I didn't give it the chance back then because I had a certain preconceived notion about it.
And at what point did that change? When did you, I guess, when did you open up to the idea of, you know what, maybe this is a viable path. Let's give it a try.
Later high school for sure. It was just kind of one of those things that, and I don't want to sound cliche here, but it's kind of one of those things that, like, I wanted to go to school, but obviously, like, I didn't really have the means to do it, at least not by myself. And I was like, you know what, like, it's a good option if I put myself through the military, at least through an enlistment, just so I can, pay for school essentially. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's actually a really valid reason too, because like from the time that I have been in, I can definitely tell you people have joined for less ridiculous, less important and more ridiculous reasons than even I know that from your personal experience. So let's see, how was it going in from that? So when did you go in? What was your enlistment year?
I enlisted in 2013, so my senior year of high school.
Okay, dude. All right. So yeah, so dang, we all keep covering 2013, dude. I think this might be another trend.
Another year of our Lord.
I know, right, dude? All right. So you're finishing high school. You enlisted in 2013. You go to boot camp 2014. I'm guessing, right? Early 2014.
Yes, so it was it was actually holidays 2013, 2014.
Yes, you got to enjoy the freaking holiday boot camps. Yes, dude, those are my favorite, man. Hearing those because there's always funny stories in there. So, all right, dude, let's dive into that. You get to boot camp. I'm guessing you went to
Do we have to?
Oh, dude, just a little bit, man. Nah, dude. No, it's all right.
No, it's all right. I was at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio.
And how was that experience for you? Like from going in, so still keeping on the ESL thing. Like, how was that experience for you?
Okay, so I was still that quote unquote rebellious kid, right? That I carried from high school, just because, again, I had to be super cool and I had to, be that left field kid. Well, I made one mistake going like first day in, okay? I made a mistake and I was totally dumb for it, but I missed my flight there, actually.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it was already it was doomed from the get-go. Let's just put it that way. I missed my flight, and because as a dumb kid, I didn't realize that that was the takeoff time, not the boarding time. So I missed my flight by 30 minutes.
Oh damn.
Anyway, so I'm calling. This is I'd never really dealt with something like this before. So I'm calling the phone number on this packet they gave me. I called the booking agency Sato, and I was able to get another flight. I think it was late afternoon, early evening. So I had to wait a whole day at the airport. So that was already fun.
Damn. Yeah.
So then I took the plane from Reno to Dallas, and then Dallas I had a small layover, and then Dallas I finally made it to San Antonio. And at that point it was already it was around midnight. So, I'm stressing out, I'm freaking out. I've never done anything like this, at least not by myself. And I'm getting, shuttle put on this bus, this dude's yelling at me, whatever. But I made another mistake. I had, and I can attest to this in hindsight, I was wearing these giant framed glasses, plastic framed glasses. They were black and white, almost like a sort of like a granite pattern.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I was already, they were already tearing into me over these stupid glasses, because again, I was super cool. I had to have my funky shade, or my funky specs. And the downside to that is we didn't get our prescription glasses till fourth or fifth week.
Yep.
So the whole first month or so, I was just getting totally lit up over something I had no control over.
Dude.
Because the glasses will get there when they get there.
Wow, dude. No, yeah, and yeah, shit happens like that.
And it went from bad to worse. I get there. I'm obviously very nervous. And, it gets to the point where we were signing this roster, right? It was our first or second day there. And it was something that we're going to give to the squadron commander and this, that, and the other. And, they had my name wrong, or I signed in the wrong spot. Point is, I lined something out.
Uh-huh. And
apparently that was a no-no. So, then I have my TI about this damn signature or stray writing I put on his paper. And basically to single me out, he made everyone, all 55 of us or so, get in line to sign a whole nother one. And then because of that ate into our very short shower period. So we legit had to car wash it through the shower.
Dude, there's always a shower scene everywhere.
And at this point, everybody hated my guts. It really is. So anyway, at this point, everybody hated my guts, right? And it only got worse. Believe it or not, it got worse.
It can't get worse than this, dude. Come on.
No, it kept getting, it turned out I was having a really hard time learning how to march. And I don't know why, like it's just one of those things, like you legit just walk it. It's like walking. You just swing your arms opposite of the leg you're moving forward. But I had such a hard time figuring it out. And so I got lit up over that. And then Christmas actually was, interestingly enough, kind of like they actually took it easy on us, believe it or not, for Christmas, and we even got like an hour phone call.
Wow.
So that was pretty neat. Yeah, it was pretty all right. I know Chairforce and all. So after Christmas, I was doing pretty poorly, to say the least. That I actually got the privilege of getting the best detail in Air Force boot camp, as anyone who's ever been in the Air Force will tell you. Chow runner.
Oh God.
Now,
dude.
as chow runner, your job for your flight to what they call the snake pit. The snake pit being a table where all the TIs and a couple officers will sit at to kind of overlook over, the two wings of the dining facility. So you go up, you give your little, you have to march perfectly. You have to, position yourself perfectly in the middle of their table, and you have to address the one in charge. So it'd be like, "Sir, trainee Gomez reports as ordered. Flight B145 is entering the dining facility from the west side," right, or something like that. And then they would tell you they would tell you something like their favorite thing was to like test you, like, "Oh, who's the current chief of staff of the Air Force?" Or name the cleaning components of an M16 rifle, or whatever, just whatever little trivia they felt like dropping on you that day, and basically starve. And then obviously at that point you're even more hated, because at this point now it's like now you're keeping your flight mates from actually eating. So like to put it bluntly, like the first few weeks I just butchered it.
Dude.
And like it was almost like daily that like we would eat kind of late because of it, to seat people down. Like it's really weird. Like they make you seat people, and then once everybody's seated in your flight, you can finally go get your food and eat. So not great. It's kind of funny. But the biggest irony of this is, believe it or not, despite how much I was totally screwing up, once I picked it up, once I finally, got my shit together, so to speak, I was like totally like I was on it. Like I enjoyed going to the snake pit. I enjoyed the trivia. I enjoyed like the reactions I would get from them when I would actually like totally nail whatever it is they were asking. And anyway, like I did, and my PT was like so well coming from, like it was so good coming from elevation. Like running like at sea level was nothing. So my PT was like on point. And anyway, all of this actually culminated in me actually getting honored or getting awarded the honor grad ribbon and coin.
Dang.
At the end of BMT. Which is like totally insane now that I think about it, because of like how badly I was messing up at first. But like, and I guess that kind of goes for anything in my personal life. Like I'll start off like really rough and like and like slow learning something, but once I pick it up, like I get like mad proficiency, and that's what happened. And I think like that turnaround, and the fact that I wasn't never like I never got in trouble or nothing, that I got awarded that privilege and that honor, which again in hindsight, like very 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 few people get.
Yeah, dude. No, and that's funny how you mentioned that, like now from like two completely separate spectrums, like bringing it back from how you said earlier, where you come to the States, absolutely nothing of the language. You're essentially sitting there like having your aunt explain everything to you, and then all of a sudden within a month and a half or so, you're essentially proficient to be able to communicate. Like even though like you said, like within kids, but I mean, even as kids, it's still a little difficult to communicate. But then you move on to a whole different career path, something unexpected, something you think is like, you know what, I'm just gonna phone it in, I'll be fine. Over something that, as cliched as like you said, as cliched as it sounds, is just like a common occurrence with people. But like you go through this whole crazy experience of, man, this could only get worse, and it just keeps getting worse up until where you're just like, yeah, it's only gonna get better from here at this point. Like you're sinking, dude. But yeah, that's pretty astounding. Honestly, that's incredible right there, dude.
So thank you. I appreciate it. I sometimes don't believe it myself.
I know, right? It happens, dude. It happens a lot, honestly. But no, it's actually a really good behavioral and resiliency type of characteristic where it's, and I'm pretty sure you kind of heard about it before, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where
I have, yes, yeah. Where it's if people that think they're good at something actually are usually pretty mediocre versus people that kind of doubt themselves tend to perform better. Tend to perform better.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you've had that experience a lot in time, dude, because like I said, I've known you for a good bit. We've known each other for a long time, and that's kind of seems to happen a lot. And then now that you're explaining like this whole very similar experience we've been through. But all right, dude. So you finished boot camp and you're out in the wild now. Basically, you're out in the military, dude. Let's touch on your experience as being another Mexican in the armed forces. How many Hispano, Latinos, Latinx, Latine, however they want to identify, how many did you encounter, and how was that experience? How was that experience and those encounters when they found out you were Mexican, you could speak Spanish?
So it's actually interesting. So this is actually going back to boot camp. I had a Colombian guy, and I also had a guy from Spain in my flight. And that's actually all we would speak to each other in Spanish, much to the chagrin of, people that didn't understand us. But then obviously like technical training, when I was at Shepherd, actually I kind of having a hard time thinking of like too many, Hispanics, Latinos I ran into in tech training. But then once I, obviously got exposed to like TDYs and deployments and stuff, then I encountered other Hispanic people that spoke Spanish, and I've met people from Cuba, I've met people from Puerto Rico, I've deployed with them. So yeah, it was interesting seeing like why they came in, what their prior service was, because a lot of the cats I met, they were like prior service Marines, they were prior service Navy, you name it. And it was interesting that like, they went from like a mad combat role, like half these dudes, and then they were like what I was doing, or what I do currently is POL, petroleum, oil, and lubricants, which obviously handles jet fuel for ground equipment and aircraft, as far as like the distribution, accounting, and quality control of it. But seeing like their background as far as like going from that to like what I was doing and their reasons for it and held from, and it was cool. I've said it once, and I'll say it again, like the coolest thing to me in the military is just seeing like all the different backgrounds you're exposed to.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's,
and somehow ending up all in the same career field or deployment or what have you.
Yeah, dude. No, and it really does happen a lot, dude. So you already had this high exposure to just like very well, I want to say very limited in boot camp, but then as soon as you actually get into the big Air Force, at this point, at the big Air Force, that's when you start interacting with all the rest of the people. But yeah, it's every story is just really a little bit unique with that. Were there things that you did as being like you said on the TDY trips and stuff, and like on the deployments that you did to be able to kind of resonate again with your culture, with being Hispano, being Hispanic?
Yes. So and this is something I got from my mom, and it's often said that it's a a Mexican mother thing to like have a really clean house or really clean area of living.
Yeah, that's very true.
Well, I mean, our dorm, like that I shared with two other roommates, ours was sparkling. Like, because every time I had a day off, that's all I would do really is go to the gym and clean. Like, yo, your like dorm is like really nice. And it was like, yeah, like my mom taught me how to clean, like what's up? Um, and not to mention like I had my sister like ship me hot Cheetos and Takis and pulparindos and like
the comfort
candies
food,
and treats that like as a Mexican, yeah, that you almost like you're like it's almost cliche, but like like those growing up Mexican, like that's the stuff you eat, like for treats. And she would mail me that stuff, so like I would legit be I'd be on the bus on the way to work, like eating an orange with tajin on it, like or munching on some hot Cheetos, or you name it. Like it was just kind of one of those things that like I think beyond anything, like food to me is almost like the thing I always end up coming back to, like culturally, like. And I'm not, I may be biased here, but like I love Mexican food. Like it's my absolute favorite. I love, I just love it. Like it's one of those things that I have a very broad palate and I'll eat anything. But as far as like what I do more than anything to keep my culture alive, and what I find comfort in when I'm away from home is food.
Yeah, dude. And from the places that like personally, dude, me being stationed in Virginia the first time, dude, I had a really hard time finding Mexican food. Where you have been, how has been the food? Speaking on the Mexican places and like the reactions of the same people like that you interacted with, like the other Hispanos that like what was their take on that?
Okay, so and my wife will tell you this. She's very, I'm very opinionated when it comes to food.
Ooh, here we go, dude. I love that. Let's go, Gordon Ramsay.
Especially Mexican food. So, not saying I'm like a professional chef or anything of that nature. I'm a decent cook at best. However, like when, like, let's say I see like, oh God, I'm having a hard time thinking of something where I see something like, I got nothing right now.
You got nothing.
Okay, you may have to chop this
I
up.
got you, bro. I got you, dude. So with food, it's like one of those things that I keep having and keep experiencing with being here out in Virginia again for the second time, is that it just irks me, dude, that I'll go and they won't have. Dude, they just won't have tortillas, man. They'll have those little weenie like they're not even tortillas, man. These aren't even tacos. It was like this thing isn't falling off the plate. The salsa ain't even spicy. Like, what the hell is this, man? Like, I had a torta like at least a couple weeks back, dude, and man, that thing was more fat than it was meat, dude, and it was all carnitas, dude. That pissed me off. Like, legit pissed me off.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. When I see something like sacrilege like that, with something like I hold pretty like dear, like Mexican food, like when I see something like, where they'll substitute something like totally silly for like salsa or like, this is okay. I thought of it. So. My wife made burritos, and she actually used white rice. And I was like, yo, what is this? I'm like, this is not like white, like this is not a sushi roll. You use Spanish rice, like for a burrito, not white rice, right?
Yeah.
So like when I see stuff like that, like I don't hold back, and I can like, by my own admission, be pretty judgy. But it's funny to see like, especially like, like with like my white friends and stuff, like they'll think something is like ultra spicy, and I'm just like, what is this, like a mild packet of sauce from Taco Bell? Like,
yeah, dude. Oh
Um,
man.
you know what I mean? Like,
No, dude. Well, here, let me tell you a quick story about that. So after boot camp, we literally walked across the street to the training site for the Navy, and while we were in the dorms, obviously I'm legitimately the only Mexican dude there, dude. It's like it kind of sucked, but it was kind of funny. But I get there, dude, and we had ended up going to the mall. We ended up going to the mall, and one of the guys I was with literally brought back like a little collection of like the hot sauces, and one of them I guess was like the ghost pepper chilies, dude. Oh, dude, that thing was ridiculous. So they decided for a challenge.
okay.
They wanted to put a drop on a spoon, and everybody would eat it. Nombre, dude. They all of them güeritos. They're American. They're dude. Two of them actually. One of them actually was from Fernley, dude, with us. One from Fernley. I'll tell you afterwards who it was, and you might remember him. But he was there with us. He's like, "No, dude, this is gonna be so super spicy. It's ghost pepper. It's ghost chilies." And everybody, I'm sitting there and just like, "Are you guys serious? This isn't even like gonna be anything." It's like, "No, but we're all gonna do it on 3." It's like, "All right, okay, just give me a double dip." It's like, "Dude, it's gonna be super spicy." I was like, "Yeah, like all right, it's gonna be cool." No, but they had their milk, they had their Gatorades, they had their water, they had everything ready. I'm just sitting there, like, all right, when are we doing this? So we take the damn hot sauce, dude. Within like 2 to 5 seconds, everybody's dying. They're over there just like screaming their asses off. They're like, "Oh my god, it's so spicy, it's so spicy." No, but I take mine. I lick the hell out of it. I grab the bottle. I add some more. Take a second one. Just like, I mean, it's good, but it's no salsa.
Right.
Yeah, dude. So I was like,
I totally get that because like it's so funny saying like like that it's almost like this palette like again going back to like things that kind of sort of tie us together as a community. It's like palette is really one of those things, and it's sometimes like we take for granted that like it's like it's not very spicy to us, but like it's like freaking like fire sauce to other people that maybe have like a more bland palate.
yeah, dude. No, that's definitely true, man. But dang, dude. But shoot, dude. I mean, we've covered a pretty good portion, and I think this is actually a pretty good spot to close it off, man. I mean, you got anything else to say, or you got any questions for me or stuff like that?
No, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
No, dude, no. Thank you, dude, freaking especially for accepting my invitation and coming on here to be able to get interviewed, dude. Like I said, and this is for our community, and to be able to keep showing us is like we're out there. We're definitely out there. We're just sometimes we're just a little bit incognito because we're kind of falling into a bit of a gray area, especially of how we came to the States. So dude, bringing that up.
I mean, that's the thing. It's it's a melting pot, right? And like we're a product of our environment, but we're also a product of our parents' environment. If we have the good fortune of still being around them.
Yeah, it's very true, dude. But yeah, man. But no, honestly, other than that, dude, that's all I gotta say, dude. But yeah, like again, thank you primarily for coming on to the show, and then extending that military to military service, dude. Thank you for your service, honestly, and like I said, dude, I'd love to have you. Hey, dude, I'd love to have you back on a different topic, dude. So who knows, man? We might catch up again on this, dude.
Yeah, it'll be a pleasure.
Yeah, dude. All right, man. Well, have a good one then, dude.
Hey, you too. Take care.